So if you're an AI developer, you've probably hit this wall. You build this amazing, powerful, multi-stepped agent. It works like a dream, right up until it doesn't. And when it goes off the rails, you're just left staring at a black box. Well, today, we're going to crack that box right open and give you the tools to see exactly what's going on inside.
Okay, let's set the scene. Your agent just did something weird, totally bizarre output for a customer. You dive into the logs, and there's nothing useful. Was it a bad prompt? Did it pick the wrong tool? Was it a hallucination? The thing is, without the right monitoring, you're basically just guessing, right?
And that right there is what we call the AI agent black box problem. You see, these agents, they're not deterministic. They can take dozens of hidden steps to get to an answer. So just knowing the final output, that's pretty much useless for debugging. What we really need to answer is that one critical question. Why on earth did the agent do that?
Yeah, it's so important to remember that an AI agent isn't just a single LLM call. It's this complex chain reaction of thoughts, plans, and tool uses. And when that chain breaks somewhere in the middle, the point of failure is completely hidden from you. And that's exactly why trying to debug these things can feel, totally hopeless, like finding a needle in a haystack.
Okay, so how do we fix this mess? Well, thankfully, there's a pretty structured approach that basically shines a huge spotlight inside that box. And it all boils down to three key pillars. So pillar number one is tracing. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a flight data recorder for your AI. It doesn't just log that something happened. It captures the entire sequence, every LLM call, every tool it used, and it links them all together into one connected story. This is literally the difference between pulling your hair out for 5 hours guessing what went wrong and spending just 5 minutes to see exactly where that chain broke. It's a game changer. All right, next up, evaluation. Tracing is great. It tells you what happened. But evaluation answers the next big question. Was the result actually any good? And look, this is not a one-and-done thing you do during development. Nope, you've got to be running evaluations all the time, both offline and online in production, to catch those sneaky regressions before your users do.
And that brings us to our third pillar, which should feel pretty familiar if you're from a DevOps or SRE background. We're talking SRE signals. Because even with all this new AI stuff, the classics still matter. We're talking costs, latency, error rates. I mean, think about it. An unexpected spike in token usage, that could literally bankrupt a feature. High latency kills the user experience. These are your alarm bells, your early warning system. So, we've got our three pillars: tracing, evaluation, and SRE signals. But how do you actually, do it? Turns out there are three main ways you can go about it, each with its own pros and cons. Now, looking at this, the most important thing is picking the right tool for the job, right? You've got these specialized platforms like LangSmith and Langfuse that are purpose-built for AI. Then there's OpenTelemetry if you need to plug into a bigger microservices world. And of course, your classic monitoring tools are still essential for those long-term operational metrics. For the rest of this explainer, we're really going to zoom in on those specialized platforms, because that's where a lot of the magic is happening for agents right now. Okay, let's get our hands dirty. We're going to take a look at two of the biggest players in this space right now. LangSmith, which you probably know from the LangChain ecosystem, and Langfuse, which is a really powerful open source option.
What's interesting is that getting started with either of them is actually pretty similar. It really just boils down to setting a few environment variables to get your authentication and your endpoints sorted out. You'll need your API keys. For LangSmith, you'll name a project, and for Langfuse, you just point it to their cloud or your own self-hosted server. The setup is really quite simple. Okay, let's talk LangSmith first. The integration here is honestly incredibly slick. Once you've set your environment variables, you can just wrap your OpenAI client and it starts logging calls automatically. But the real magic trick, it's the @traceable decorator. You just slap that thing on top of your main agent function, and boom, it captures the whole execution flow as this beautiful nested trace. It's about as easy as it gets, seriously. Now, Langfuse takes a slightly different approach. It gives you a lot more granular, hands-on control. So you explicitly create a trace for every single agent run. And then inside that trace, every little thing, an LLM call, a tool use, you name it, gets logged as an observation. And what's really cool is you can group a bunch of related traces into a session, which is perfect for tracking multi-turn conversations. All right, so you've picked your tool, you've got it set up. Now for the really important part, how to use this thing effectively when you go to production. Let's walk through some absolutely essential best practices that are going to apply no matter what tool you're using. Think of this as your production hygiene checklist. Seriously, don't skip these.
First off, and this is a big one, separate your environments: dev, staging, prod. The last thing you want is a bunch of test data flooding your dashboard when you're trying to solve a real production fire. Second, and I can't stress this enough, add consistent metadata to every single trace. Things like the agent version, the model name, a user ID. Why? Because when that support ticket comes in from a customer, that metadata is your superpower. It lets you instantly filter down from millions of traces to their exact one. This is what turns debugging from hours into minutes.
And really, all of this, it brings us back to one fundamental idea. It's all about preserving that cause and effect relationship between all the little steps your agent takes. It's about getting rid of the guesswork and replacing it with cold, hard evidence about its behavior. This is what moves you from just hoping your agent works to actually knowing why it works.
So that black box? Yeah, it's not so black anymore, is it? Once you have the right tools for tracing, for evaluation, and for monitoring, you can build, debug, and run these complex AI agents with some real confidence. So the only question left for you is, now that you can actually see inside the box, what are you going to build?